Hello, today our guest is Hugh McKee. Hugh, please tell about yourself.
Well, I'm a developer advocate at Lightbend. I've been at Lightbend for about almost 6 years, and about 5.5 years. And before that, I was with Hewlett Packard in a bunch of different roles, all in software for a very long time. So I've been in software development for a very long time. So I'm not going to tell you how long, but it's been a long time, and I love it. I just really enjoy writing software and talking about software and those types of things. And it's been for me, it's been a great career.
Who's the developer advocate at Lightbend?
Right now, I'm the primary developer advocate at Lightbend. That's my official role is a developer advocate. So in that position, as a developer advocate, it's you're kind of in 1 foot in two worlds. You have the outside world where I'm trying to communicate to the outside world, to developers and to their management and others, about what does Lightbend do. But then also I bring back into the company things from the developer perspective, like what is it like as a developer using the products and services that Lightbend provides. So it's actually a very fun position because you're kind of in between those two worlds. My job is to get out into the world, speak at conferences, do things like this, but also to work very, very closely with pretty much the entire company, engineering, marketing, sales, and those types of things.
We all think Lightbend is an amazing company. What are a few things that make people want to work there?
Well, I think the main thing is that we work on some pretty cool tech. It's the thing I like about it is it's pretty advanced. So that's the beginning of it. So we really kind of have two things right now. We have what's called the Akka platform, and Akka it's actually kind of a tool set which is composed of many software frameworks for building applications that run in distributed systems. And it's all based on the actor model, and developers, people write it in Java or Scala and things like that. We're also the company behind the Scala programming language, which is a very advanced, very powerful, very interesting programming language, all open source. And then the other thing that we offer is what's called Akka Serverless. And this is brand new for us, but it's more of a application platform for building distributed systems, but in a very serverless way. So the entire infrastructure is provided by us. So we have these really advanced types of distributed cloud-based types of products. But then the other reason why I think Lightbend's such a great place to work and what attracts people is the people. We got a great culture, and because we're doing all these really interesting things, there's really interesting people building these really interesting things. So it's just, for me, it's just wonderful interacting with, some really intelligent people, but also people that are, very approachable, and we have great discussions. And so for me, bringing feedback, I'm hearing, or I don't like this feature, we really should change it. I get a reaction from the people, but it's across the board. So we're a small company, around a little under 100 people, but and we're very distributed. We've been remote before, forever. So we have people from all over Europe, all over the US, people in New Zealand and Australia, all over the world. So it's all remote. So I'm in the US in Florida, for example. So I just love it. It's like I say, I've been here for about 5.5 years, and it's just the best job I've ever had. Yeah, it's a cool place.
Tell me, what are reactive systems for you?
Reactive systems. Yeah. So um, reactive systems is a principle for how to build systems. It actually is formalized, and, and people, the listeners could look it up. If you look up reactivemanifesto.org, there's a nice, concise definition of reactive systems. But what the idea with reactive systems is that you build a system that is always responsive to the users. And so that's the main thing. How do you build a system that no matter what's going on behind the scenes, the system is consistently responsive to the users? So there's two key factors for that. One is that the system should be elastic, meaning that if the traffic to the system goes up, the backend system should be able to scale up to have sufficient capacity to adequately process that load. So that's one key feature, is the scalability of the system and kind of dynamically scale. The other thing is resiliency. And this is actually the fun part, is that the backend system should continue to function regardless of what kind of failures are happening behind the scenes. So the idea is that from the user's perspective, the system's working and it's working well all the time. But in the background, the system's scaling up and scaling down depending on the load, and it maybe is if something fails, that failed component is replaced with something else, which so building those kinds of systems is really cool because you have this very kind of how do what kind of tools and technologies can you use to build these kinds of reactive systems? So we've been all about it, but building reactive systems, the Reactive Manifesto and the term reactive systems came out around 2014. Now reactive is kind of mainstream. You hear programmers talk about it all the time. But things like Kubernetes is very reactive systems. Kubernetes is a platform for building kind of dynamic systems and so on. But the fundamental idea is that it's the three things. If you look at the manifesto, it's the system's always responsive, and it's always responsive because it can scale and because it's resilient.
You were in a Java conference in Poland. What did you like about this conference, and what did you like about our country?
Yeah, I think I've been to your country, to Poland, 3 times for Devox Poland, and the last time was actually last August, and the conference is always in Krakow. So first, the conference is a great conference. It's in a wonderful venue, and I really like the caliber of the people that come to it. Like, the programmers that come, the architects, the management, all the people that I've interacted with at the conference. It's like great conversations, great participation in the sessions during the conference and things like that. And then Krakow, it's one of my favorite cities. It's a beautiful city, and I really enjoy going there. The conference is right on the river in Krakow, and it's just this gorgeous. I love it. It's a beautiful city, and I like to walk, and it's just a great walking city. And that's one of the things I really like about Europe in general, but certainly in Poland, is that you go out in the evening and everybody's walking around, enjoying the evening, and things like that, which is a little different than in the U.S. If people drive from here to there, and it's very nice. I just love coming to Poland. In fact, I'm going to be, got another conference coming up in April this year called Typeville in. I'm not sure I can pronounce it. Kranika? Yeah, it's not far from Krakow. Anyways, I'm coming back, and I'm really looking forward to coming back.
Are you in Wrocław?
No, no.
We
Um,
are from Wrocław.
okay, no, it's. I've always been to Krakow.
It's called the second Venice in Europe.
Oh,
You should
okay,
come here.
yeah, yeah. I've heard about that. It's I've heard other people have told me how beautiful it is there.
You've been a software engineer for a long time. What is the difference between a software engineer and a programmer?
That's a really interesting question, and um, I guess a programmer is somebody that writes code. So, and this is pretty much where everybody starts. And you're writing programs, you're writing software, and so you really focus primarily on using the available tools, the tools that you use to develop your software, and your programming techniques. But it's kind of concentrated at the you know at the code level, at the at the logic processing level. I think a software engineer is kind of at the next level where they look at they take into consideration not just the programming part, but the overall architecture of an application, the overall architecture of a system. And this is really important uh, for many of us these days, as most of us are moving to the cloud. Because in the cloud, you're not constrained typically to a single machine anymore, which historically has been the common way we did things. In the cloud, you're kind of building systems that run distributed, where different parts of your system are running in different parts on different computers. They're all communicating over the network. And there's all kinds of architectural techniques and tools and technologies involved in building those kinds of systems. So I see software engineers as very seasoned and very experienced and very knowledgeable programmers, but also very much into the overall architecture and how do you build like a reactive system, for example, and that type of thing.
Can you tell us about beginnings in the IT industry?
About my beginnings in the IT industry, yeah, well, um, I guess there were a couple of phases. One was I when I went to school. When I was in college, and I actually got my degree in aeronautical engineering. And I was going to a great school for that, but this was a while back. I'm not going to say what year, but it was a while back. And one of the classes I had to take, or that I could take, was a programming class. So in aeronautical engineering, you take a lot of math, a lot of calculus, a lot of differential equations, and all those types of things, and chemistry and everything. But here was a programming class, and I took the programming class, and I think I fell in love with programming almost as soon as I wrote my first program. I was just completely hooked. And and this was way back. And compared to what we do today, it was kind of it was back. But I just fell in love with programming, and so at the school uh, not I went to school, but I ended up having two jobs. During the day, I ended up working in the computer department at the school, kind of business data processing. And in the evenings and on the weekends, I was working at uh, a company that built early flight simulators, the 3D visuals for flight simulators. And so that was so it's kind of business programming during the day and kind of heavy engineering programming uh, at night and on weekends. So when I got kind of an exposure to those kind of two different areas of technology. Then when I got out of school, I went into Hewlett Packard and did all kinds of different things, from consulting and systems engineering, and I've ended up in enterprise IT. Um, for the last part of the time I was there. And it was during that time at Enterprise IT, I was taking some online classes, and I was learning. I was taking a bunch of online classes on computer science and programming, and I was taking a couple classes on the programming language Scala. And in the end of the second class, there was this introduction to this thing called Akka, which I'd never seen before, and it completely blew my mind, And as a this, and it was actually something that I was working on at the time at HP that solved our problem. So we took a chance to embrace a new technology, and and we built this system, and it was probably one of the most fun systems I've ever built. So I've had a really interesting career in IT, uh, and it's always been fun. It's always been interesting. I've never wanted to get into management, so I've kind of always been technical and programming as much as possible. Um, so uh, it's been interesting. I've been around long enough to see the history, the evolution of the technology over long period of time, and it always keeps getting better,
Yes,
and you want
exactly.
more, and so I don't. I mean, I look back fondly on the past, but I also look forward to the future very optimistically, because it's like every year, every month, every day, practically, there's new things to
Create
learn and
new
explore.
things.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Our audience are mainly people who are just entering the IT industry. Could you, as a veteran, give them some advice?
Boy, yeah. We could talk for a long time about this. Um, First off, I guess I think the IT industry is absolutely fascinating, and just like what we were just talking about, that it's it's moving. It's always been moving fast, but the pace of change, there's that exponential growth. And I'm kind of picturing and that exponential arc.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
we're in the IT industry. We're riding that exponential arc. That the power of the hardware keeps growing more and more every year. Uh, the power of the tools that we use in the software IT industry keeps growing more and more, and by really, really significant amounts. So things that were really difficult or absolutely impossible, say 10 years ago, we couldn't even dream of doing, we're doing today.
Yes, exactly.
So when you enter this industry, you're kind of jumping onto that ride, and I think it's a great ride, because it never gets boring.
Yes,
Because there's which kind of gets into the next part. It's a never ending learning experience that you if you're just joining this, coming into IT, and you've taken, like, computer science, you've taken programming classes, those types of things. That's just the beginning, because like I said, I was many years, many decades into my career, and I went back and I started taking all kinds of online classes, because I just wanted to learn, and they were free, or very inexpensive, which was a new thing as well. Having all this kind of training that was very accessible, because of the IT industry. Um, and it actually, taking those classes later, much later in my career, changed, got me the job at Lightbend. If I hadn't taken the initiative to learn and continue to learn, and invest in myself, I wouldn't have gotten the position that I've got now, for example, which I dearly love. So it never gets boring. You never stop learning. You're always a student. And no matter how experienced you are, no matter how good you are, there's always something new to learn. There's always something more to learn about what you're already using, and that's what I just absolutely love about this type of career. Um, and it just keeps going, and there's so many parts of it. There's so many different areas that you can go into that are deep and rich. And the only problem is that we get so deep into our world, it's virtually impossible for us to talk about our world to the outside world. Like for me to explain things to my family or to my friends about what I do, if they don't know, programming or anything, it's impossible. You can tell them a few things, but they really can't appreciate some of the, like, say you worked on a cool piece of software and you're really excited about it, and it's like, oh man, this is really cool. Well, you can talk about it to your colleagues, but you try and talk to somebody outside of the industry, they want to have they won't understand anything what you're saying. It's totally foreign to them. Uh, so it's a great industry.
So we all students, I see. I
Yeah,
must, yes, I must ask those questions. What's your best project ever, and what is your worst project ever?
uh, the I think they're kind of one and the same, in that the best project also had the biggest failure until we fixed it. And I'll go on that one. So it was back when I was at HP, and this was around 2008, I think, something around that time frame. And I was on a team, and we had built a kind of our own early cloud-like system. So it was really, we were very excited about working on something like this. But it was all brand new, and we were kind of inventing things as we were going on. Um, and we actually got the system running, and it was running on like 100, 200, machines, which was pretty big for that time frame, especially for something that was, homegrown, as they say. Um, but it had some real reliability problems that we'd never saw before, because were building a distributed system, and those types of things was new to us, and we were learning. So we really had this very difficult problem, and and we had other teams that were using our platform. It was a platform that other teams would use, but we were disappointing them because of the stability problems with the platform. So my manager at the time said, I think it was something like, he started a project for us, and he said, this is the No More Failures project, or something like that. So yeah, it was basically, we have to fix this. This is not, we can't continue to go this way. And this is when I ran across a new technology for me, which was Akka, and which was a platform for building distributed cloud-like systems. And that's why it was kind of, the timing was perfect. So we studied this new technology. We learned how to write code, programs to use it. We and we said, all right, this looks like we should make the change. So we invested in this new technology, which was a risk, but we rewrote the system basically using this new technology. And like I said earlier, this was the one project that I think I'll never forget. And I've worked on probably hundreds of projects over my career. I'll never forget this one project, because not only did we meet the objective in that we built a system that wasn't disappointing our users anymore. It wasn't, it was reliable, it was stable, it just kept running. Um, but the joy of learning something new, the joy of using new techniques and learning about these new techniques at the coding, at the programming level, as a programmer and as a system, as a software engineer and as an architect, it was just this delightful, experience. Like, oh, I didn't know we could do that type of thing. We kept, running into that over and over and over. And so, and then the outcome being that we had, it was like we had this stable program or platform where we could do things like this thing's running along, and we could deliberately fail systems, and the system itself would keep running. And this is kind of building a reactive system before we knew what reactive systems were. We ended up having something that could scale up and down easily. It was resilient to failure, and at the time, also, I was in kind of early DevOps, even though we didn't call it DevOps back then, where I was a developer, but I was in operations. If there was a production outage, 24/7, me and my team got involved. So it could be a Saturday evening at 8 o'clock, or sometime when you want to be with your family. You have this production outage. You had to drop everything, and you would get on these. We call them escalation calls, and you could be on these. Let's fix the production system call for 20 hours. It was horrible, And it was like, and you're on these calls and you're vowing. It's like, I have to build a system where I don't have to do this anymore. So we were highly motivated to solve this kind of a problem, and we did. This new system really solved this problem and gave the stability. So it was kind of the worst and the best were we're kind of in this one system that I worked on back then.
Anything else would you like to add to our interview? To our listeners?
I guess I think the question you asked about giving advice, hopefully that, because I think the audience is mainly people that are new to the industry, that it is just this great industry, and there's so many different ways you can go, and I can highly recommend this as a career path. It's kind of also in many cases resilient to the the ups and downs of economic cycles and things like that. I mean, you're not completely resilient because you could be at a company that could run into hard times, but typically you can get other jobs pretty quickly. But I don't know. I've just I'm so happy that I took that class back in college that introduced me to programming and completely changed the direction of my career from going, say, into aeronautical engineering, which was really interesting to me, and I'm sure I would have enjoyed it. But I just have such a deep passion for this that, and I meet so many other people that feel the same way. It's not a job. I'm getting paid to do what I love to do. That's the best job to have, right? And I think there's so many careers like that in IT, that you get paid to do what you love to do. So it's really not a job. It's it's great. It's just great. So
with all students.
Yeah, and you're always a student. You can be a teacher, but you're always a student as well.
Okay, Hugh, thank you very much for the interview. And
my pleasure.
Have a nice day.